Hey guys, Jeremy here from TBIInfinitey, and we got another deck profile with Jake of TBI.
Hello, bad waving motions. So I have not ended up dead. Life has just hit me hard and fast. But I come to you guys today with some jank ass shit as I've been playing lately. So new Deity Garga literally came out 2 days ago. Is the buddy, therefore having a buddy mechanic. We'll explain all that when the card gets to it. The idea is the flag. I play One Punch Man world. Okay? Now, we tech this shit in the chaos. Oh, that's such a good thing to say. I miss saying that. And just to confirm, we flag flip, because not every chaos deck these days for some reason does that. So we'll get to that when we get to that. Older chaos cards shouldn't have to explain. Any old chaos monsters that aren't gear gods really are generating advantage. Zindo Beta, good body if you really just needed to sit there. Discard, get me any spells, which is really just draw advantage or flag flipping. 2 Chaos Osiris, not exactly a body, because some of these Chaos monsters aren't okay to sit there. Only one of them's good to sit there. I really don't like letting Osiris stay on the field if I don't have to. It's got crappy defense, crappy crit, and not enough power to do any damage. But it's, a Flare Fang Dragon clone. And it's at 2 right now instead of 3, because 3 became too cloggy. Chaos Orser. Same idea as Osiris, but at 3 copies, because along with getting your charge and draw, it gets a life, and I'm recycling shit when I go through this deck really fast. Also, its defense is substantial to keep it on the field for a turn, because not too many size 1s right now are actually hitting that for some reason. And I need to recycle things at times, since the flag flipping spell is also a Gear God Searcher. Sometimes I mill off 1 copy or something. The only advantage Chaos monster that is actually meant to stay on field. Daryl Burke, everybody knows why you play Daryl Burke. I keep it on field because it's got 7k, and my main challenge sometimes is hitting big numbers, so I need this to end up in a link attack. And I always play it on the side, so the low defense shouldn't matter, because they're attacking it on the side. They're already wasting an attack to my face. The only Gear God that I think deserves a straight-up explanation in this deck. Mini Gear God Rainbow, size 3, 7/2/1. Chaos Territory to abuse having 4 monsters, and the Rainbow Privilege ability. Once per turn, hard once per turn because it's a named ability. When a Mini Gear God is put from the field to the drop zone in any way, charge and draw. And there's 2 of it, and it's the only Mini Gear God I play. So, pretty good. So that's 7k instead of 6. Play Gear God 7 so you can abuse Chaos Drain, Chaos Territory, and honestly, my stack of standard Chaos things that are size 3 make this the more viable option, because I can call things during the attack phase. Otherwise, it's a big-ass buster, and most of my Gear Gods, when it comes to attacking, are actually just meant to smack something I can't normally hit. It's not even about the crit. And 1 copy of Complete for after we flip the flag, because every overkill besides overkill reboot that Gear Gods have only apply to calling back Chaos monsters or getting Chaos monsters. This calls back anything. So being a Garga deck, I can spam back calling forms and get their enter abilities. Also, what the hell is wrong with 4 crit and going back to 10 life? Garga forms. We have 4 copies of the buddy. Now we explain it. Keywords that you go by are Move, Penetrate, and Soul Guard. Deity G-Evo is like a G-Evo, but it's a hard once per turn, and you proc off a draw before deciding what to evolve into. Even if you get nothing, because it's an up to 1 call, you still get a draw when this thing happens. That's, good as fuck. And the best ability that abuses its attack power is, if it's in the soul of something, you can call it by paying its call cost. Now, in a normal flag, you're breaking size gap by doing that. Being the Chaos, everything that's 3 and under is basically like a 0. So if I have something in my center, and I have a space open, I'll pay a gauge, and I call it out to the side, and I just called an extra monster to smack. And it's not once per turn if you have more for some reason, because you can top deck itself into the soul, which is dumb. This is a legitimate play I've actually seen happen, where something else is in the soul. Point is, I end up with 3 of these, and I smack for 9 total of 3 different ideas of penetrate, which is really dumb. Other base forms, because it's still important to have consistency on it. The only other 4 of one we play is Daybreak, because it has move, so it's protection, because a lot less shields are play being Chaos, and if you have open space, move isn't a bad idea. But having another Deity Dragon procs off a draw, which the idea is to attack with this first, draw, If you can't G-Evo off of this, let it lie or you evolve it. Then do this for the next draw after and judge based on what's in your hand. But, this moving is a bad fucking idea. And it's 1 gauge. Then we play 3 copies of the base form. It's still there. And it's 7k, which next to your buddy is one of your best attack powers. And it has double, so it's not a bad idea. Rarity mix-up. I want to switch one of these to get a Buddy Rear just so people get more OCD when they watch this, but oh well, I messed up at this time. Then we go into forms. We play one of Fuma Demon Dragon. So the idea with this is not only am I spamming forms, it loads the G-Evo from drop. I don't honestly have to evolve from it. All the Katana ones do that. They load the thing into the soul from your drop zone, so if it's already dead, it matters. But out of all the Katana things, he's a 1 gauge call cost, so it's really easy to play. On his own, he's a double attack, which is nice. And generating clones, if I've run out of Chaos Drain targets, I can spam more, which is great. Another toolbox is charging mode. Stats-wise, it's not honestly that good, but it gains 2 no matter when it enters, and if it enters by G-Evo, I also get a Dragon Emperor Legend on top of that. So it's 3 gauge of life and a draw, because I'm never calling this thing normally. Double body, you're gonna get gangbanged. I don't know what else to say to that. It's standard. Quasar, this boy is new. If it's a new thing, I think it's worth going over. Size 2, 10,000 power, 3 crit, 7k, 3 gauge, and top deck into soul, so its average call cost is crappy as fuck. When it enters by G-Evo, you look at the top 4 cards, add any one to hand, and then rearrange the others back to the top. And counteract one during your attack phase, mill 1 card if it's a monster, add that monster to your hand, and then gain triple attack and penetrate, as well as normally having move and soul guard. This thing is busted as fuck. Honestly, you can drop it after you get attacked up to G-Evo just to filter for shit. It's worth it. But the fact that the thing you're milling then just goes to your hand instead of the drop zone is nuts. Play 3 copies of return mode, because when you're doing it off G-Evo, you get 2 cards instead of 1, because if you don't know what it says, it's when it enters the field, check top 3, send them to drop, out of the 3, add a Deity Dragon Tribe, then if it entered by G-Evo, add any other card that you don't have to define to the opponent. It's nuts. And then, as a monster, move and soul guard, you're sitting on some okay stats, 626. It's worth it. It's a body. You're not playing 4 Sonic mode in any Garga deck. I question what you're doing. I shouldn't have to explain this. I don't know why I had to pause for that. A new spell, because we're into spells now. The only spell in this deck pertaining to Garga being that it's Chaos. Radiant Combat Deity's Glory. So, once per turn, you can use this in all flags. Pay a gauge. It's basically a switch mode from your drop zone. And you G-Evo, and the card that results from coming out of it also gets a 5k boost for the turn. Now, the idea to abuse this, there are multiple ways, some techs we can talk about, but when you use any kind of Katana Garga that spawns clones, they're all Dragod attributes, so it works with this. This doesn't, even if you're in other worlds, this has to go on top of a Dragod, not, because, there are certain cards that go on top of deity dragons, which I think are just a very few, but same difference. A couple Chaos spells, which are all used to generate advantage. Chaotic Pain, pay a life, mill 3, gain 3 gauge. Mill for my flag setup, gain 3 gauge, because why the fuck not? Chaos Gear is a draw spell on advantage. If I have 3 or 4 monsters, why not? Unfreezing was supposed to be a 3rd Chaos Gear, but we found it worked better. Player preference, this one is just me, because I don't honestly feel too confident without them. Some form of shield, even though it's Chaos and your body and your defense is mainly having centers. 2 Chaos cards on field, you can't nullify this. Pay a gauge, stop an attack, and then pull any size 3 Chaos monster, which really just means generate more advantage next turn. And why is any of that bad? Then standard flag flipper. Honestly, I don't think people realize it as much. If your flag is already flipped, boom, it'll still grab a Gear God. Why is that a problem? And it works on your minis. We play 1 weapon in the deck. Chaos Absorber. This thing, I'm pretty sure, is the Trial Deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Trial Deck card. Pay a gauge. Like an OG Gunrod, you rest it, you do something. This one gains you a gauge, but it comes with the Neato Burrito ability of sacking it at counter speed to nullify your opponent's penetrate ability for the turn, which when you're Chaos, that's kind of really fucking useful. And I play 2 so I don't run out of Gauge Excel. Last thing I play is 2 copies of Deity Lance Chaos Buster, because you need a dumbass thing that's similar to Deity Punisher, but you have centers. So Deity Punisher isn't the smartest idea, even if you could play the ones from other worlds. Also, I would prefer this even in a regular Dragon World deck, because if they don't have a center anyway, you can, and that's why Dragon World Garga has been playing it, and they can't revive off of this. You can revive off of all the newer impacts, and that kind of bugs me. I wish when you set a standard like that they couldn't revive with the new ones, but that's, personal opinion. Hot takes, Don't have a sideboard built per se, but we kind of have a small idea of text that are both open for discussion in the comments and, our ideas for sideboard. So for promos, there were 2 kinds of Garga SD that came out around A Set 1. This one's a box tower. This one came in a entire deck that was very hard to find for demos. This one is pay a gauge when it enters the field, add a size 2 Dragod, basically add a Garga from your drop zone to your hand, being you can play everything now. You're just recycling anything in your deck pretty much. And this one is for effect destruction reasons. When it enters the field, if you have another Deity Dragon, which all Gargas are, pop every monster in your field. But the issue I find relating to this...
Your opponent's field.
Or your opponent's field, my bad. You pop every monster in your opponent's field. The idea I have a problem pertaining to this is right now in the meta, and I'm starting to think it's phasing out again, that effect destruction of monsters is kind of irrelevant. But if you ever play against decks that have it, there are certainly some options. You have the new DDW Garga, which is a size 2, 9/3/6. When it enters the field, if I read it correctly, whoops, it has Shadow Dive on attack, but it does not have more than 1 attack, so it's kind of a piece of shit after it enters ability. But when it enters the field, you destroy a card. If it entered by G-Evo, pop all cards and then burn 1 for each. So if you can pop shit, it's a good idea. It's just you kind of have to get rid of it because it's not going to do other things. It's going to move and be a crappy body. Like, if it has uneven stats, I'm not a big fan. And if it doesn't have multiple attacks with 3 crits or penetrate, it's not as good. Another new form is if you have enough gauge with maybe your own version of this could replace Fuma. It's your new Lightning Wind Demon. Has triple attack and Soul Guard instead of double attack. And instead of creating clones on command, at the end of every attack, it makes a clone. So you're making up to 3 clones, therefore fixing up your... So therefore, by the end of the attack, even with Chaos, you'll probably end up sacking off a clone, filling your drop zone a little bit more for your flag flip. Or if you ever want to pull things back with the Evo spell. The only other thing that implies destruction is Kogamo. This guy's an old one, but he is good. Basically, you'll get a lot of advantage if you can pop shit. The only other idea and techie choice on Garga forms would be the new Ancient World one. He's a swole motherfucker. Like, honestly, I don't know what royalty took. His call cost is actually pretty okay for the world he's in, but it's only in context of actual Ancient World. 3 gauge, put top card of deck, 10/3/10, size 2, and it's a Dragon Lord if you actually want to put it in Ancient World. You discard a card, and it gains 10k, 10k. But if there's a DDG Evo and Soul, a G Evo and Soul, kind of like, with a lot of Katana or Magic World Gargas, just needs to be in Soul, it also stacks another 20/20. You're basically making yourself 40k on a single discard. This thing does not have Penetrate, sadly, for when it attacks the opponent, but it does have Move, Double Attack, Counterattack, and Soul Guard, so you're getting use out of it. I would say a suggestion is sideboard, so you can punch over big shit like Max Dragons. Like, your biggest problem right now is punching over the size 4. If you can do that successfully, you have a pretty good shot at beating Max Dragons the next turn. But this is your main out to doing that. And then other decks kind of cry at it. But what I noticed, if you know your little rulings a little better, you'll discard a card, and in the battle, if your opponent has no response, I'm pretty sure you can discard another card to stack up more power, because you're starting another chain while the attack happens, or something along those lines. But he's a good guy on that. And it's just is what it is. And those are some tech ideas. They combine together to be a sideboard, and like original Set 3 TE, you're toolboxing a lot of your forms. It's really based on what your utility needs. And besides that, that's about it.
If you guys like this video, subscribe to TeamBurningInfinitey Buddyfight content. We'll see you guys later.
Yeet.